So be kind. You're from the world of fashion. You want to, rate Krista and I how we're dressed today?
I think you guys look amazing. I told you before. We're gonna call you for the next catwalk. What do you call it? The runway for this.
So kind.
I'm not sure what I just listened to or how much you paid that gentleman to say you were well dressed, because I've seen how you dress, Michael.
Especially when out on the tasting. That's our guest interview today, and I'm going to let him tell you who he is.
I am Salvatory Ferragamo. We are at Il Borro, which is my family winery in Tuscany, in the province of Arezzo, and we're part of the Valdarno Valley and the Valdarno DOC, the Valdarno di Sopra DOC, our organic DOC of Tuscany. And today is the Valdarno Day, so we are here celebrating this wonderful event and tasting the new vintages.
Wait, so was this a wine tasting or was this a fashion event?
It's Ferragamo, Andre. To a fashion plate like yourself, I am surprised the name means nothing to you. They're one of the Italian stylish houses like Gucci, Armani, Prada, Versace, Ferragamo.
Yeah, I guess I can't afford fine Italian fashion. I mean, I don't think Italian suits are particularly cut for a guy my size.
I don't think Adidas makes a suit either. So there you go. So, look, it's all you make a good point. In our last podcast, I told you we were at I always mess this one up. Valdarno Day. Okay. And we talked to Sette Ponti. Sette Ponti has a vineyard in Valdarno, but they make wine all over Italy. Here, we're at Il Borro. So we're right in the heart of Valdarno. And, well, I'm going to let Mr. Ferragamo tell you about the place.
Well, Valdarno di Sopra has two main elements. Or maybe even three. So let's start with the third one, the historic element. So Cosimo de' Medici, the third, 1716, so more than 300 years ago, decided to do a zoning of Tuscany. And we had Chianti Classico, Pomino, Carmignano, and the Valdarno di Sopra as the very first 4 DOCs of Tuscany. So this is, historically speaking, important. Then this part of Tuscany was overtaken by the Chianti, the general Chianti, not the Chianti Classico, but the Chianti of the Arezzo Hills or Chianti Superiore. Recently, with the local producers, we said, why don't we reactivate this old DOC and make it the first organic DOC in the world? So this is the second element that I think is very important, to be one of the only DOCs in the world to actually make wines by the DOC regulation organically. So this is something that is important, especially the organic certification, because they're both the restricted, sustainable way of making wines. I think that's a good important. But first, the DOC concentrates on terroir. So what does this mean? Is that this whole area of our sea, the Valdarno di Sopra, is divided by the River Arno. So you have the left bank and the right bank. And where you are has very different growing conditions. The whole valley used to be part of the sea, part of the ocean. And this actually brings a very interesting diversity in the soils and in the local growing conditions. Here we would be on the right bank of the River Arno, and we find further to the north, you have the Apennine mountain range, so you are somehow shielded from the cold air that is coming from northern Europe, and also a slightly higher elevation, so good thermal exchange. But also an interesting diversity. On the mountainside, you have more rocky, dry soils, perfect to grow the Sangiovese grape variety. And instead, as you're coming into the valley, you're going to find more sandy soils, clay types of soil, or gravelly types of soil, more suitable international grape varieties, or what we can generally say in Tuscany, super Tuscan wines. So this is the three aspects of the DOC: the historic element, the sustainability, and the terroir, and making wines according to the single terroir, and actually being able to write that on the label to say that this wine comes from this vineyard that is made from Syrah, Sangiovese, whatever we produce in that single vineyard. So this is, I think, today a very important in terms of communication for our DOC, what we're doing.
So let me just get this straight. To make wine in this region and to get a DOC approval, they'll put DOC on your bottles. You have to be organic.
You have to be organic, yes.
That's kind of interesting.
They made that as a prerequisite.
Yeah, that's interesting.
To be part of it, which then made it why they basically. So during the Anteprima Toscana, what they do is they have a Nebbiolo Day, they have a Chianti Classico Day, they have a Chianti Day. They have a few days that go through this, and then this year they added a Valdarno di Sopra Day, which made us all wonder why they had done such a thing. You don't hear much about Valdarno di Sopra, but you hear there why. One, it becomes interesting because it's all organic, and two, because it's one of the original DOCs of the area. I do have to apologize, by the way. He took us to this absolutely lovely overlook of the property. Overlooking the Relais, which you'll talk about a little bit later, which is the hotel and how old it is. It was an absolutely gorgeous valley, and I'll get you that picture. So for anyone who is listening to us, hopefully that'll be the picture that you're going to be looking at for the podcast. So you'll know why he wanted to go there, because it was beautiful. But the wind picked up on occasion. There are some times that it was like dead quiet, and then there are sometimes that wind picked up and didn't even feel it.
Yep.
So
the microphones are very finicky. The recorders we use are very good. Just like a cheap plug, patreon.com/2guystalkingwine. Make sure we have the equipment that we need to get the podcast. We need to buy a few more small pieces of equipment to take things to the next level.
So besides the historical significance of Valdarno, it's not just about putting the crew name on the label. It's about a new vision for Valdarno.
The opportunity that we have in reactivating an old DOC, but with a unique method. So in this case, also understanding what has been done in Burgundy and the importance of actually giving value to the land. Today, this morning, we had somebody that came, one of the speakers, he said something which I thought made me think, and I thought what an interesting way of looking at wine. And he said, wine has a mother and a father, and the father is the soil and the local growing condition, and the mother is the grape variety. And I think this is exactly what we are doing here at Il Borro in the Valdarno di Sopra DOC. We are trying to make wines that are a true expression of their local growing conditions, but at the same time keeping in mind sustainability and making the wines sustainable and organic. And I think this is a great concept that I think makes the DOC unique.
So Andre, I saw your head kind of tip to the side.
Yeah.
When he said that the mother and the father.
Yeah.
And I thought, when he said that, I thought that's a great jumping off point for a wonderful talk. Do you agree, disagree with that? As somebody who makes wine yourself,
yeah,
you ever put any thought into that?
Not in those words, but like a little light bulb 100% went off like when he said that, because it is very true. Because like when you make a child, as I did with Spencer, is you have elements of both the mother and the father. One of the reasons why I'm Captain Chardonnay is not because Chardonnay tastes the same everywhere on the planet. Like, you obviously have a sameness, right? You have all the Chardonnay I have in my basement are cousins of each other because they have the same father, or was it mother?
Mother was the grape.
Mother was the grape.
Father
so
was
they
the
all
soil.
have the same mother, but they all have different fathers, right? I think that's very, very interesting because, it's such a cool way and such a eye level easy way to put it. Like, well, what do you think?
Well, it's easy. It's interesting that he called the father the soil, because we usually call Mother Earth, right? So, which is interesting. And then
All right.
I hate to get a little more pedantic about it, but so you have Mother Earth, and to plant a grapevine, you put a hole in the earth and you plant.
Okay, Michael.
But that, in theory, again, but it's kind of the same thing. One of them's the mother, one of them's the father, and I thought it was a very interesting way to think about wine in a
minus your borderline graphic description of how
you said you made a baby.
Babies are made.
I was just going a little bit further.
I think you're splitting hairs a tiny bit, but I do think the metaphor works a little better visually the way you described it. So I'll give you that much.
So I'm going to pour you the first wine.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe I'll have I will have Salvatore tell us a bit about it. I'll pour it to you.
One is Sangiovese. Sangiovese is our indigenous grape of Tuscany. And with the Sangiovese, I produce different wines. I'm actually one of the only producer of sparkling Sangiovese wine with this on Primera tasting. That is made from early harvest Sangiovese. And we rest this wine on the lees in a bottle for 5 years, for 60 months before we release it. Then I make another a Sangiovese Rosé, a Sangiovese sweet wine, which is our Vinsanto. I make two red wines, one in 100% Sangiovese, one is aged in amphora, and another one instead is a classical Sangiovese aged in oak.
So this is pure Sangiovese?
This is the Sangiovese in oak. This is the Pollicina.
But this is pure Sangiovese.
100%.
I'm very surprised about this because last episode we did the Crognolo, which was 90% Sangiovese and 10% Merlot. This is only 2 years newer. It was a 2017 Crognolo that we had, and this is a 2019. Yeah. This is vibrant and fruity.
Better vintage as well.
But I mean, it's got like the whispers of the tomato stem, but it's much more vibrant. I know I just said the word vibrant twice, but just like for me, like this is
fresh. This is fruity. But again,
it's like, dark cherries right off the tree. The snap of a tomato right off the vine. This is lovely.
So again, as I talked about Sangiovese when we talked to Setaponti, the thing that still grabs me and makes me realize that it's Sangiovese is that acidity. Again, this is why Italy has that food culture. This is a great sipping wine. You and I both, looked at each other. You were very happy. You could sip on that.
Yeah.
But imagine now putting a piece of meat in front of you.
Yeah.
Charcuterie.
Nice steak.
The steak. This.
Oh God, charcuterie. Yes, get some nice salamis and some like really old Parmesan.
Like this is your opener, right? This is the wine where you go, okay, charcuterie's on the table. Now we're all going to mull around for an hour and drink this, before we sit down to dinner and pour the bigger wine. So you can just see how lovely and beautiful and there's oak in there. But man,
the oak doesn't drive the bus. This is all fruit.
So I've come at this podcast a little ass backwards. Usually we're talking about the history of the winery of Il Borro. Il Borro has got a great history to it, and now I've made this clip a little bit longer.
I'm ready for it
but there's also. Because I know you want to drink more of the Sangiovese, so we'll let you do that. But this is one of those crazy clips because the wind picks up right in the middle of it. So I hope we can either clean it up or people just have to listen just a little bit closer to it.
The Ferragamo family was created by my grandfather and my grandmother, and they had 6 children. My father being one of them. And instead, the Borgo was purchased by my father, and so it's a direct family, and so it's a more of a personal investment of one of those 6 branches. In a way, I think a diversification of investment instead of being everything into fashion. We're here on the terrace overlooking a medieval village of Il Borro, this beautiful 1,000-year-old medieval hamlet that dates back to 1039, so almost 1,000 years old. And we arrived here at the property with my family in 1993. The property was in complete state of disrepair, and it took us many years to actually restore it and bring it back to its original beauty. To the first restoration took us 7 years to restore every rooftop that had leakage and land erosion and many different issues. Today, to transform this property into a hospitality destination, so they can stay in the medieval village. It's been transformed into a 5-star Relais Chateau hotel. But it really is a unique experience. Of course, externally, you can see it. We've maintained the external look with the old plaster, the old tiles on the rooftop, so the external feel. But of course, inside you have all the modern pieces. But it's not too far from the world of fashion, because we're talking about a luxury lifestyle. At the Borgo, we have a concept of hospitality in this beautiful 1,000-year-old medieval village. The land produces many different produce, not only wine, extra virgin olive oils, vegetables, chicken, eggs, beef, wonderful honey. And all of these produce are available in our restaurant on a farm-to-table dining experience. So this is, I think, is also a part of the world of luxury, when you can actually provide guests with a unique and true experience at that level is what I think makes the Borgo so special.
We never really talk about wine as a luxury item, because wine is, especially the wines that we're talking about lately, is a luxury item. I know it's a part of the culture, especially in places like Italy and France, lesser so here. But yeah, I love the conversations about like selling that experience and like getting that experience out there.
Yeah. So this is what they're doing, right? So it's another he calls his wines branches, first of all. So we're looking at the Sangiovese branch. We are in a little bit going to be talking about the Super Tuscan branch, but he's also talking about the branches of his family, right? They are Ferragamo, luxury brand from Italy. So of course they're going to make something that's not just the wine as a luxury item, but their 1,000 years. This is what we're looking at. We are looking at this 1,000-year-old village that they've turned into they call it a hotel. It's a Relais, but they've turned it into, and inside is absolutely stunning, but the outside you wouldn't know it. So they've got Wi-Fi, they got air conditioning, blah blah blah. But on the outside, it just looks like this old village, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But
so I think it's great when you can build a tourist experience that is a little off the beaten path, and I mean, do it at a very high level. It's like I did Route 66, I guess a decade ago now, and like you go to a place like Roswell, New Mexico, Little Green Men, UFOs, like, and they have a UFO museum in the town. But the thing is, it's worth the visit. But there's nothing that really hooks you there, right? Like you go see the paper mache little green men at the UFO museum, but then that's it. Like it's a place to drive through. It's just like if you can build an experience, like even if it's a 1 or 2 or 3 night experience, you become a destination for people.
Yeah. So Il Borro is so the winery is there, and then at some point, because I was doing interviews, I didn't get a chance to go to the village, but it's just a 10-minute walk down the road. Like, forget your car, leave your car. You wander around this winery, which is mammoth, and then you walk down to the village, which everybody that went down there said it was absolutely gorgeous. So now I'm going to pour this second wine for you. Now this is the luxury item. This is Il Borro. This is, they have a restaurant in Tuscany. They have a restaurant in their own in their own Relais. This is that luxury. Super Tuscan wine.
Okay.
So we are now going to get into. I'm going to let Salvatore tell us about it.
And then I have a completely different line of production. Sangiovese tends to be more medium body, lighter type of wine, and instead the the valley floor, which is more suitable for international grape varieties, I produce super Tuscan wines, like our flagship wine, the Il Borro Toscana, which is a big full body wine, and it's a blend of Merlot, Cabernet, and Syrah. Plus, I make also 100% Syrah wine, only magnums, a super Cabernet Sauvignon, very limited production. I also do some biodynamic practices. I use the support of a horse and plow to really reduce the soil compression and make a fantastic Cabernet Sauvignon. Really is very, very special. So it's we produce different wines, but with a very careful philosophy according to the different terroir and different location where the grapes are grown, and with unique vinification techniques.
Is that a hint of Syrah I'm tasting in this?
This could be a hint of Syrah that you're tasting in. This is I've had Il Borro really, really young. This is 5 years old. He sent us a bottle of the 2020, and this, is starting to come into its own. I believe you're making ribs tonight. I think this is going to be like one of those wines that we're going to save and have with the ribs. I know I always say Zinfandel, but I mean this. This has got a richness to it. It's got power, as he said. The Sangiovese was that light, refreshing wine. This one has got all that dark fruit, that meatiness,
blue fruit,
that smokiness. That this is that
but
one.
But it's still fresh, and
yes,
and the fruit notes are it's like a fresh blueberry. It's not confected. The acidity is fantastic.
It's
on
off
this.
The chart.
I think, if anything, compared to the Areno as well, the alcohol is a little bit more in balance. It doesn't taste warm. Okay, so full disclosure, there's 15% Syrah. I pulled up the tech sheet, and I wasn't guessing at Syrah. I was just I was surprised to see Syrah on it because I didn't know you could grow Syrah and still have it like a Super Tuscan. I thought Super Tuscan was meant to be Bordeaux.
No, so Super Tuscan is basically IGT. So IGT, you can grow anything. So the DOC, if you're a part of the DOC, you can grow only what they tell you can grow. DOCG, again, but it's a guarantee of quality. I think we've talked about how in Ontario, I always said we should follow the Italians. Forget the French at the AOC level. Let's talk about what the Italians do. DOC. If you're in an area that is only allowed to grow Sangiovese, or in the blend you can only put 15% of something else in there, then that would be the DOC. Call that VQA. Then the G. If you're in an area that is classified as a DOCG, you get a tasting panel that can taste through your wines, which is what the VQA is trying to do all in one step instead of... And then
and the problem that we have in Niagara is I think we're at the point where the way VQA is currently set up and run is it is a barrier to growth.
Correct.
For the region, and the fact that there's money tied to it. And I will scream this from the mountaintops. I'm not a fan of most wines made with hybrids. And, I tip my hat to the Speck brothers. I'm always shocked at how much I enjoy the Baco Noir that they make. But the reality is, and sorry, this is just an aside, and we'll return to your regular scheduled program in a second. If you're able to grow a wine grape, and fine, I'm okay with the list of acceptable varieties, but if you can make a Céval Blanc on Georgian Bay, you deserve the tax break that comes with making it VQA because you're putting the effort into growing a grape in Ontario.
So, and that's where IGT comes in, right?
Yeah.
In Bulgari, when they made, when Sizakaya came out, when Ornellaia came out,
yeah,
they said, you know what, we don't want to make Sangiovese. We know we're in Tuscany. We don't want to make Sangiovese alone. We want to make Cabernets. We want to make Cab Francs. We want to put Merlot in the bottle. We want to do Syrah. And so what they did was they made these wines. They charged super high prices for them, and they were Vino di Tavola, which means a table wine. And they were outselling Chianti Classico at higher prices. And so the Italian government came in and said, we cannot have a table wine being better than, what we consider to be our best wine, which is, Chianti Classico. So they made this level called IGT, which basically means it doesn't matter where you are and what you're growing. If you want to plant Céval Blanc in the middle of Tuscany, but it's not allowed to grow there, you call it an IGT wine. You want to grow Syrah, you want to grow Cabernet, it's an IGT wine. So that's what makes it different. And that's where I think we should be going in Ontario is the three levels. Grow what you want. We'll do what needs to be done. Now, I'll pull us back out of that aside that we have there. We've made our little VQA and comments. We've turned this now in an Ontario podcast once again. So good. So this was another interview that I did with Krister, friend of the podcast. And he's always interested in the oldest wines that people taste. So Salvatore started talking about some of the oldest wines and suddenly got into the history of Tuscany.
The oldest wine, probably an old Tignanello, Sassicaia that I can think of. You have to keep in mind that Tuscany, the real turn of Tuscany in producing wines in a certain attention towards quality, we have to say thanks to Sassicaia, because in 1969 they decided to move away from the classical way of making wines and making wines with their own attention and their own philosophy. So we are, a relatively very old history, but a relatively young. New way of making wines with the new techniques and the use of barriques and so on that we could do so much if you were going back in the past. Unlike the French, it's just very different.
So, when you and I started this podcast, I think one of the very first things we talked about was what was our revelatory moment. What was the wine that got us interested, not just maybe in wine, but in Ontario wine? If memory serves, yours was a Trius Hillebrand at the time.
Yeah.
Was it the Red Shale?
No, it was 2004 Cabernet Sauvignon. The empty bottle is literally right above your head.
So I remember yours, and then mine was like a 1999 Chateau de Charme Cab Merlot. Yeah. And Salvatore, who's obviously, let's say family could probably afford a little bit more than a Trius and a Chateau de Charme.
Oh God, I can't wait to hear this
has
clip.
A different take on what wine made him have that revelatory moment.
Born and raised in Italy, I enjoyed wines, and we have many families that are friends, the Antinori, the Frescobaldi, the Mazzei, that we enjoy all their wines. And I think maybe as I was growing up, the Fonterutoli was a fantastic way to start with a Chianti Classico wine that is easy, simple to enjoy. Where I personally had a revelation was when I tried Chateaubriand. And my uncle Massimo, I was with him in New York in his farmhouse, and he opened up a bottle of Chateaubriand, and I thought, wow, this wine is just unbelievable. You have so much that you can achieve with wine, and of course it's a journey. It's not something that you do immediately, and it's a learning process, and there's always things that are changing and vinification techniques, but of course also with the weather, it's a big element, and so I'm just incredibly fortunate to be part of this world that I love, enjoy, despite being very challenging and hard work, but very rewarding.
I thought you'd like that part at least, because as somebody yourself who is making wine, you know that it's a wonderful world that we live in when you can get and taste really great wines, and that's a little bit greater than our revelatory moment. But we should stop and first of all thank the STEM Wine Group,
yes,
for helping us get these wines in. Thank you to Salvatore for sending them. So to both of them, thank you.
So I'm going to give a big compliment to Salvatore, because I've tasted Haut-Brion. I tasted Haut-Brion when I did the Tokalan press junket for Mondavi, and I'll be honest, it was good. But, it didn't give me the fizz.
It all depends on what the age was, right? Like, if he's got a grandfather who's got a farmhouse, maybe he's got a wine cellar, maybe he was 30 years old, maybe that becomes a little bit more different.
Gotcha. But I mean, the thing is, I'm tasting these wines here, both of them. This Sangiovese is singing. It's really speaking to me.
This is bomb.com.
$65 a bottle. I'm getting ready to book a plane to hop on a plane to France the next couple of weeks. But when I get back, I might split a case of this with some people. Like, I know $65 is a lot of scratch, but like to have a few bottles of this in the cellar in the basement, I think is something worth having. Like these are two of the best Italian wines I've ever had. Full stop. Yeah, like they're lovely, and I've become attached to Ornellaia, and this is the thing I love about these past 2 episodes. It's just getting a chance to learn more about the region. I've been lucky enough to taste Ornellaia through the LCBO tastings, go to other tastings, and do that, and they're always high quality. I like El Stranovo, the second wine from Ornellaia. I always find to be incredible value.
Even the Le Volte, we tried.
Le Volte, I buy that. I keep a couple magnums like just on hand because like for $60 for a magnum, like it's a nice thing to have at a party, smoke ribs and do that.
We tried a 20-year-old Le Volte, which was still hanging on, not by its fingernails, but had a good grip on the pole. So,
yeah, these wines, like this is, I'd be lying if I said that the Sangiovese tastes like what I think Chianti Classico, like what Sangiovese.
Oh no, it's completely
like.
different. We're in a different part of the
it's
region.
Just so ripe and fruity, and
we're single vineyard here. So, of course, when you talk to I was talking to Salvatore, and I did want to know, as you are now, you're talking about buying these wines. So if you want to buy these wines, these are the ones that Salvatore would recommend that you pick up that are still drinking really well.
Perfect.
Well, if you're drinking our flagship wine, Il Borro Toscana, I would say that the 2022 was a good vintage if you're going really recent. Otherwise, you go back to 2018. It's back and forth between the 16 and the 15. Personally, I prefer the 16. I know everybody raves about the 15, but I'm more of a 2016. And then going further back, we have the 08 warm, but drinking beautifully. We have fantastic 08 wines that are being enjoyed. And the further back, or 2001, or the very first vintage, which was the 1999. We only have 100 bottles left, but still fantastic. But maybe also because it was my first vintage, so very special also for me personally.
The thing I love about the vintages he recommended is, it was the thing I found frustrating when I was in Abruzzo, was tasting wine. So people were just like, 30, 40 years, drink them at that age. And it's just, to have someone drinking wines in what I consider the sweet spot, right? I'm going to be 42 this year. And yeah, I would love to hold on to some of these to drink when I turn 50, 52.
Oh, I think they'd last.
I know they would last longer, but like we've talked about like what I think is the sweet spot. And like that Areno that we had last episode, like hitting the 10-year mark, and the Crognolo. With apologies, I love that wine. The Crognolo, was getting close to like 10 years. It was just like the tannin was starting to soften. The fruit is still super fresh. And to me, that is the sweet spot for wines. And
yeah, you don't need the 30 years.
No, and I mean, like, it is cool when they show up, and it's cool when you can find them, and it's cool when you can find them when they taste good. But like, I don't want to play Russian roulette in my cellar. Like, I want to make sure that the wines are going to taste good.
That's kind of that's kind of the advice I give to a lot of people. Look, if you want to play Russian roulette, let them sit there for 30, 40 years, see what happens. If not, then you know what, pick them at the 10-year mark. Most wines these days, barring the really cheap stuff, are gonna go. You don't put Josh in your cellar for 10 years. It's not really meant to go 10 years.
You've done that. Listen, Michael,
I have done that, yes.
Michael has done that.
It is not meant to do it. Don't do it. I can give you a whole bunch of other wines that are, really fan favorite. Don't do it. Just don't.
And I mean, it comes down to, once again, too, like the tiny little asterisk is not all wines are made to age, and there's nothing wrong with that. Featherstone continues to be a favorite that I love in terms of Ontario wineries, but I don't think there's anything at Featherstone that's really made to age, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're great wines meant to drink now. Like, glug glug, enjoy the new vintage when it's out. Just forget about it and wait for the next one.
If you want to hold it 2 to 5 years, I think you're going to be happy, just as happy as well.
But you're not going to want to age it the way you would in Il Borro or an Areno.
I had a Cab Merlot La Grande Reserve from Domaine Caylus not too long ago. It was tasting fine.
Yeah.
Was I happy that I held on to it for 13 years? Sure, because I get a chance to taste it. But I mean, It may have been on the downturn.
Gotcha.
Let's just say that. No, this all brings us back to the start.
Going back to the beginning, where you know what? I know how you dress for most tastings, Michael. And granted, you were in Italy, and you have an Italian girlfriend who I think is helping to raise your fashion sense a little bit.
So on tasting days, Christer and I kind of dress down. Let's say, because all you're doing is sitting and tasting. And Christer is in Adidas, as you are.
Yeah,
right
Chris
now.
is fashionable too, though.
That's because he's wearing Adidas. That's the only reason you're calling him fashionable. I have a Carhartt shirt and jeans, or as it gets warmer, I sometimes do a t-shirt and shorts. Always depending on the weather. That day, Christer was in I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 different Adidas tops because it was a little chilly. He had his Adidas bottoms on. I had a Carhartt shirt, a rumpley jacket. I looked like one of those old-time reporters with a microphone in his face. All I needed was one of those crumply hats.
Yeah.
And I asked Salvatore about our fashion sense.
I think you guys look amazing. I told you before, No, we're going to call you for the next catwalk, or you go to the runway for the... So kind, so kind.
You know, it is one of the things that I find hard, and like it's a tough thing to really pay attention to. I know we're poking fun, but like I really like Adidas because it does feel fashionable, right? And like it really fits my style and my personality. But every time I get off the plane, whether it's in Italy or France, and you look at how the European men dress, it's just like, I wish I had that ingrained fashion sense,
Yeah, I guess so too, but I come off in my Carhartt or my, like even today I've got a Carhartt hoodie on. That's what I dress for comfort on the plane.
Yeah.
I don't dress to make an entrance, unfortunately.
Man, I'm not gonna lie, my cheeks actually hurt from smiling. Like, we've just recorded 2 episodes, one after the other. My buddy Guillaume's getting married. I'm heading to France, so like we've had a very busy Sunday. But like my cheeks hurt from smiling. From like these interviews were excellent. I'm hoping if you're listening to this, you enjoyed them as much as I did, and as much as I enjoyed putting these episodes together. But also like, man, Michael, when's the last time we got together and opened 4 wines that were just complete, total bangers?
Yeah, one after the other
like,
the other.
This is all killer, no filler. None of these wines are super expensive. Like, I mean, none of these wines are like, oh, we're going to buy like 5 of these and open them one every day of the week. But like, these are your Friday night wines. These are I'm going to my boss's house for dinner. I don't know if people still do that, or, I'm trying to impress my girlfriend or my wife's parents. All of these wines fit the bill. And the other thing too is like, I certainly learned something, and I don't know, I'm at a loss for words.
Well, interestingly enough, we're at that point where we have talked about this generation of wine drinkers not wanting to buy, 3 $20 bottles of wine. They want to buy one good $65 bottles of wine or bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And these fit the bill. Like if
you're looking,
if you are looking to buy wine that is going to give you that, as you call it, the fizz, it gives you that experience of Tuscany Sangiovese, of Syrah and Cab in an IGT, even the Sette Pontis. It's really, these are the bottles you're looking for. It's not. We're recommending all 3, so they'll be in the show notes of the.
All 4. You forgot about Crognolo.
Oh, and the Crognolo, yes, I said
they'll be in the show notes
wines.
last week. The show notes for last week. The show notes for this week. Like, tell your friends and do that.
And again, thank you to STEM for bringing these wines in, and thank you, Salvatore, for sending these wines. Fantastic selection that you made there.
Now, listen, we don't get rich off this podcast, but if a couple more people were willing to donate, I might be able to afford to buy a couple bottles of these. So, patreon.com/2guystalkingwine. We really appreciate the support. I say that tongue in cheek. We really just want to make sure we're covering our costs, because Michael and I, we do not make money off of this, but we really, really enjoy doing this. And bringing interviews like this is time consuming. It takes a lot of work that goes into editing, recording, finding the interviews, getting the wines. Like, we're working our asses off so that you have great content to enjoy. All I'm asking is that you think about giving us a few bucks. We're not even asking for a lot, like $5, $10. So like $5 a month would work out to $60 a year. You could sacrifice the cost of one of these bottles of wine to support the two guys talking wine. I'm Andre Prue, AndreWineReview.ca, at Andre Wine Review on social media.
And I'm Michael Pincus of MichaelPincusWineReview.com. On social media as The Grape Guy, sometimes as Michael Pincus. You'll find me. I'm there. Andre, thank you for coming to Tuscany with me.
Thank you for bringing me.
I think next time we may go to France.
I can't wait.
Good night.